Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Modi chairs Cabinet Committee on Security meeting on West Asia conflict, addresses critical needs for common people, orders urgent steps to secure supplies and curb price risks, stresses on public information system to counter rumors. US President Donald Trump in his national address says we'll finish the job in Iran very fast with core strategic objectives nearing completion. Stresses Iran will never be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Iran calls US demands of ceasefire on reopening of Strait of Hormuz irrational. President Pezeshkian questions America First policy, calls Washington a proxy for Israel in open letter. Britain to hold a virtual meeting of about 35 countries on Thursday to assess all viable diplomatic and political measures to reopen the strategic Strait of Hormuz. NASA's Artemis II crew of 4 begins historic mission to Moon. Crew to circle Moon in a crucial test for future human landings. US President Donald Trump addressed the nation on Iran war today, asserting that US has scored swift, decisive, overwhelming victories in Iran with core strategic objectives nearing completion. He said that Washington is going to finish it very fast under Operation Epic Fury, warning that US is going to hit Iran extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Besides this, Trump said that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons as it was right at the doorstep of making one. He asserted that a nuclear Iran is an intolerable threat.
Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously.
On Strait of Hormuz, Trump said that it was not needed for the US and does not need it, and an apparent reference to his earlier statement in which he asked countries not supporting the US in reopening the strait to get your own oil. He also asserted that the recent rise in gasoline prices short-term and that when conflict is over, the strait will open up naturally.
The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. The countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves.
Finally, Trump stressed that Iran has been essentially decimated and that the hard part is done.
As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed. hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb.
Trump criticized the nuclear agreement negotiated during the time of former President Barack Obama, calling it a serious mistake. He said he felt proud to have ended that deal during his presidency.
I terminated Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, a disaster. Obama gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash, took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, all the cash they had. He flew it by airplanes in an attempt to buy their respect and loyalty, but it didn't work. They laughed at our president and went on with their mission to have a nuclear bomb. His Iran deal would have led to a colossal arsenal of massive nuclear weapons for Iran, and they would have had them years ago, and they would have used them. It would have been a different world. There would have been no Middle East and no Israel right now, in my opinion, the opinion of a lot of great experts, had I not terminated that terrible deal. And I was so honored to do it. I was so proud to do it. It was so bad right from the beginning.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Thursday said that Trump's powerful speech was clear about our objectives in Iran. In a post on X, Rubio listed those objectives as destroy their weapons factories, destroy their navy, destroy their air force, and destroy their chances of ever having a nuclear weapon. Rubio added President Trump's leadership sends a message to the world that the United States will defend its people and its interests and uphold peace through strength. And in news just coming in from Israel, fresh missile fire has been reported on Thursday. Israel's military said that air defenses were responding to a fourth Iranian missile attack within 6 hours. This is the big breaking news we're getting for you from Iran. Sirens sounded in parts of northern Israel. A military statement said Israeli forces had identified missiles launched from Iran towards the territory of the state of Israel, adding that defensive systems are operating to intercept the threat. The big breaking news we are getting for you this hour: there is no respite in the Midwest crisis. Iran has launched fourth missile against Israel, and we have responses coming in from Israel that the fourth Iranian missile attack has been reported within 6 hours. Sirens were sounded in parts of northern Israel, and also Israeli military has been responding to fresh missile fire from Iran, intercepting the missiles. Defensive systems are operating to intercept the threat. The latest we're getting for you from the Middle East, the crisis there. The attacks, military attacks continue, and here we are getting you the visuals. Israel's military said that air defenses responded to the 3 waves of Iranian missile fire early on Thursday, with media reporting several light injuries in Tel Aviv area. The third reported salvo came shortly after U.S. President Donald Trump delivered an address to the American public about the Iran war. Eyewitnesses showed footage of water bursting from a bursting pipeline flooding a street in Bnei Brak, a city east of Tel Aviv, after a recent missile strike. It was reported in the early hours of Thursday. Local media reported that a bomblet from a cluster warhead damaged water main in Bnei Brak. No known injuries were reported in the attack. Iran said on Thursday that Washington's demands were maximalist and irrational, and denied any negotiations were underway on a ceasefire to end the war in West Asia. In a letter posted on social media addressing American people, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that his country harbors no enmity towards ordinary U.S. citizens while accusing Washington of distorting its image. Pezeshkian said that portraying Iran as a threat was neither consistent with historical reality nor with the present-day observable facts, adding that Iran's actions were rooted in self-defense. The roughly 1,000-worded letter, published in both English and Persian, also struck a defiant tone at points, referring to Iran's long history of resilience. Pezeshkian asserted, I quote, Iran has never initiated a war, yet it has resolutely and bravely repelled those who have attacked it. He also criticized the U.S. military presence around Iran and pointed to past American interventions as a source of long-standing distrust. Pezeshkian defended Iran's retaliatory actions against Israel and Gulf nations as acts of self-defense, but did not address the closures of the Strait of Hormuz, which has disrupted the global economy. The letter comes amid heightened tensions following weeks of conflict involving Iran, the United States and Israel, which have disrupted global energy markets. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte will visit Washington next week for a long-planned visit that comes after President Trump blasted European allies over differences on the Iran war. A White House official also confirmed the visit. No further details of the trip were immediately available. Earlier, Trump said that he was considering pulling the U.S. out of the Western military alliance due to the refusal of European members to send ships to unblock the Strait of Hormuz. In remarks on Wednesday to allies gathered for an Easter lunch at the White House, Trump criticized France and the United Kingdom, among other U.S. allies, as a paper tiger. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Thursday that the original objectives of the war in Iran had been met. Speaking about nation's response to the West Asia crisis at the National Press Club, the Australian Prime Minister called for de-escalation, noting that US-Israeli attacks had degraded Iran's Air Force, Navy and military-industrial base. He added that the original objectives have been met and it was not clear what more remained to be achieved. Albanese's comments came as US President Donald Trump gave a highly anticipated speech laying out his view of the war, vowing 2 to 3 more weeks of extremely hard strikes against Iran. Britain will on Thursday hold a virtual multi-nation meeting to discuss how to reopen the strategic Strait of Hormuz, which has been crippled by the West Asia war. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced on Wednesday that Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper will host the discussions with representatives of about 35 countries. Prime Minister Starmer said that the talks will focus on assessing all viable diplomatic and political measures that can be taken to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and also resume the movement of vital commodities.
The UK has now brought together 35 nations around our statement of intent to push as one for maritime security across the Gulf. And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those nations together for the first time, where we will assess all viable diplomatic and political measures that we can take to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and resume the movement of vital commodities.
Our correspondent Akshay Dongre is joining us from New Delhi. Akshay, good morning. We've given the latest developments with regard to the West Asia conflict to our viewers. We've seen President Donald Trump talk about Iran war in his address just when we thought that the situation was easing and there was a solution that could be seen inside when Trump talked of de-escalation. Today morning, we see him present another salvo, which talked of how he will be aiming to decimate Iran further and that the Operation Epic Fury will continue. How should we understand this?
Well, as far as these statements of Donald Trump are concerned, they have been, contradictory in nature from the very beginning. Starting from the negotiations that were taking place between Iran and the West, talks were taking place. That round of talks that took place in Oman turned out to be positive, and then there were another round of talks that were slated to be, slated to be held in Geneva. And before that, the strikes happened, and everything that the US had been saying about negotiations and about discussions turned out to be only them buying time to prepare for striking the top leadership of Iran, and that is exactly how it happened. Now, initially also there were different aims than they are now as far as the conflict is concerned. There was a timeline of 2 to 3 weeks during which it had to be winded up, but that hasn't happened yet. So it seems like with the growing political pressure, midterm elections coming near, this is an attempt by the US administration to justify to the world that they are in fact achieving something out of this conflict, and that they are having successes as well, even though the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. As far as several countries are concerned, and also the inability of the US to actually ensure that this narrow pass remains open for the global trade, for freedom of navigation and freedom of trade, that has been halted because of the US and Israeli attacks that have carried out against Iran. So that seems to be the case. Now another timeline, another promise, another claims of success have been made by the Trump administration, but it remains to be seen that whether the administration of the US government will be sticking to the claims that have been made and to the timelines that have been promised to the world.
All right, Akshay, this comes in the backdrop of Iran sending a strong worded letter to the US talking of how it will defend its sovereignty on one hand, and on the other hand we have this unabashed US President Donald Trump vowing to dismantle Iran and to decimate Iran, in fact. Put all this together, do we see any let up in the days ahead when we talk of the war ahead? How significant is this warning coming in from President Trump? Because on one hand, he shreds off his his take on Strait of Hormuz, saying that US has nothing to do with it now, and on the other hand, at the same point, he says that it will decimate Iran. Put all this together, how do we expect the situation to progress from here on?
Well, the situation is complicated because there is no trust now that is there of the global markets as well as global trade organizations, global bodies, and other nations in what the US president says regarding this war. Because as far as the negotiations are concerned, I'm sure they're taking place, but it seems quite unreasonable and undiplomatic that the US president comes out every now and then and speaks in the open to the press about the secret negotiations and attempts to stabilize the situation from even the Iranian side. Iran obviously have lost their supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. They have lost Ali Larijani very recently. So even if they want to negotiate for peace and for stability in the region, they really cannot because of the political pressure. That is something that the US administration has to understand, and before coming out in the open stating that they already have found a leader, they already have started with negotiation. Iran is calling for a ceasefire. So all of these are secret negotiation, and there is no need to come out in the open and boast about it by the US president. So that is one problematic thing that may derail the entire negotiation and the entire peace process. Besides that, if you round up the entire situation, obviously there would be back-channel talks taking place, other third countries trying to bring about some negotiation, but with the president himself talking about them openly would obviously put the Iranian leadership, even if they are trying to bring about a settlement, into direct line of fire from the more extreme elements in the society in IRGC. So that can also derail the peace process and reignite the conflict in the region. Plus the entire fallout of the US with the NATO is also a very interesting case study in this entire matter, because the US and Israel did not consult NATO, they did not inform NATO before attacking Iran, and now they are expecting the NATO countries to bring their people, bring their resources, bring their warships to attack Iran and keep the Strait of Hormuz open. So that seems also to be unreasonable and unjustified, especially given the fact that NATO is there to protect their allies, not to join every conflict that their allies begin, their allies start, even if it is a defensive action. But this was in fact an offensive action against Iran. So the stalemate remains will obviously continue, and the political fallout may be visible in November when the midterms take place in the US.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details and that insight. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday chaired a special meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security to review measures taken by various ministries and departments, and also discussed further initiatives to be taken in context of the ongoing West Asia conflict. During the meeting, Cabinet Secretary briefed about the action taken to ensure supply of petroleum products, particularly LNG and LPG, and sufficient power availability. Sources are being diversified for procurement of LPG and LNG with new inflows from different countries. He further briefed that LPG prices for domestic consumers have remained the same, and anti-diversion enforcement to curb hoarding and black marketing for LPG is being conducted regularly. Initiatives have also been taken to expand piped natural gas connections. Measures have also been taken to ensure availability of power during the peak summer months. Further interventions proposed to be taken for emerging challenges in various other sectors such as agriculture, civil aviation, shipping and logistics were also discussed. Various efforts are being taken to ensure fertilizer supply. State governments are being requested to curb black marketing, hoarding and diversion of fertilizers through daily monitoring, raids and strict action. The retail prices of food commodities have been stable over the past 1 month. Control rooms have been set up for constant monitoring and interaction with states and union territories on prices and enforcement of Essential Commodities Act. The prices of agricultural products, vegetables and fruits are also being monitored. Efforts to globally diversify our sources for energy, fertilizers and other supply chains, and international initiatives for securing safe passage of vessels through the Strait of Hormuz and ongoing diplomatic efforts are being taken. During the meeting, Prime Minister Modi assessed the availability of critical needs for the common man. He discussed availability of fertilizers in the country and steps being taken to ensure its availability in the Kharif and Rabi seasons. He said that all efforts must be made to safeguard the citizens from impact of this conflict. Prime Minister also emphasized smooth flow of authentic information to the public to prevent misinformation and rumor mongering. Prime Minister also directed all concerned departments to take all possible measures to ameliorate the problems of citizens and sectors affected by the ongoing global situation. Prime Minister Modi in a social media post said that he chaired Cabinet Committee on Security meeting. The CCS reviewed the steps being taken by various ministries and departments in the wake of the ongoing West Asia conflict and discussed the next set of initiatives to be taken. The meeting focused on key sectors including energy, agriculture, fertilizers, aviation, shipping and logistics as part of efforts to assess preparedness and response measures. The Ministry of Finance has announced a major relief for Indian industry. Under notification, customs duty has been slashed to zero on 40 key petrochemicals and polymers. The move is effective from April 2nd to June 30th. In a zero duty boost, key inputs like methanol, PTA, PVC, polyethylene and ABS are now cheaper. Sectors including textiles, packaging, auto, construction and electronics are set to be benefit from the lower input costs. Further, ammonium nitrate is also exempted from agriculture cess, which is a boost for agro and fertilizer segments. The government aims to curb inflation, support manufacturers and strengthen the Make in India push. Meanwhile, oil prices spiked and stocks sank on Thursday after Donald Trump reiterated that US forces would hammer Iran for another 2 to 3 weeks, but offered no solution to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz that has crippled global markets. Brent crude, which had fallen back below $100 a barrel on Wednesday, surged as much as 5% to hit $106.29, while West Texas Intermediate jumped more than 4% to as high as $104.29 per barrel. The reaction among equity traders was no better, with Seoul, which soared more than 8% on Wednesday, losing 3%. Tokyo, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, Taipei and Sydney were also down. The war in Iran and the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz has seen fuel costs rise sharply in the past month. With disruption expected to have a lasting impact on prices, governments worldwide are introducing measures to limit the impact on consumers and the economy. Australia will provide up to $693 million on interest-free loans to critical businesses, including transport operators and fertilizer producers. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that no government can promise to eliminate the pressure this crisis will impose, but we can be a buffer against the worst of it. A shock absorber in time of global shocks, he said. A 7-month-old baby girl was shot and killed in broad daylight in Brooklyn in what police suspect was gang-related gunfire. The shooting occurred on a street. As gunfire erupted, the baby's parents ran into a nearby store for safety, only to discover their daughter had been struck and was bleeding inside her stroller. One suspect, believed to be the shooter, has been taken into custody, while another remains escaped. Officials condemned the violence, calling the killing a tragic reminder of the continued threat of gun crime, even as overall shooting incidents in New York City have declined. 4 astronauts blasted off aboard a massive NASA rocket on Wednesday on a long-anticipated journey around the moon, the first crewed lunar flyby in more than 50 years. Artemis II, launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, marks the first crewed lunar mission in more than 5 decades since the Apollo era. The mission carries 4 astronauts on a 10-day journey around the moon and back, serving as a crucial test for future deep space exploration, including planned lunar landings under NASA's Artemis program. They will also test its manual piloting capabilities during docking simulations. If all goes well, they are expected to venture forth on Thursday on a loop around the moon, which is expected to take about 3 days. Artemis II is a key step towards establishing a sustained human presence on the moon, paving the way for future missions to Mars. A major 7.4 magnitude quake struck off the coast of eastern Indonesia on Thursday, killing 1 person, damaging buildings and sending people running into the streets in panic. The early morning tremor in Molucca Sea between Sulawesi and Maluku Island groups triggered waves up to 2.5 feet high in places and prompted a tsunami warning that was subsequently lifted. The U.S. Geological Survey said that the tremor hit at a shallow depth of 35 kilometers. 1 person was killed when a building collapsed in Manado and another was injured. Dozens of aftershocks rippled through the area after the main quake. Indonesia's National Disaster Agency urged people to remain cautious. Indonesia and neighboring countries experience frequent earthquakes due to their location in the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of intense seismic activity where tectonic plates collide that stretches from Japan through Southeast Asia and across the Pacific Ocean. You're watching DD India News. I'll be heading for a short break. Well, after the break, Russian First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov visits India, focus on bolstering bilateral trade, economic and defense ties. Last day of second phase of budget session of India's Parliament today. We tell you how French Institute of Pondicherry is doing a yeoman service by preserving the manuscripts of Ramayana and Mahabharata on palm leaves.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south, bringing you stories from the heart of emerging economies, dynamic cultures, and transformative voices. As the international news channel of India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati, DD India delivers high-quality content from every corner of the globe, focusing on the stories that shape our future. We don't just report news. We connect you to India's voice in the global narrative. From current affairs to culture, from economic growth to sustainable development, and the ever-evolving world order. DD India gives you a comprehensive view of the world around us. Stay connected, stay informed, and embrace the stories that shape our lives. DD India. India's voice to the world.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories now. Prime Minister Modi chairs Cabinet Committee on Security meeting on West Asia conflict, assesses critical needs for common people, orders urgent steps to secure supplies and curb price rise, stresses on public information system to counter rumors. US President Donald Trump in his national address says we'll finish the job in Iran very fast with core strategic objectives nearing completion, stresses that Iran will never be allowed to have nuclear weapon. Iran calls US demands of ceasefire on reopening of Strait of Hormuz irrational. President Pezeshkian questions America First policy, calls Washington a proxy for Israel in open letter. Britain to hold a virtual meeting of about 35 countries on Thursday to assess all viable diplomatic and political measures to reopen the strategic Strait of Hormuz. NASA's Artemis II crew of 4 begins historic mission to Moon. Crew on the 10-day mission won't land on Moon but plan to circle it. High-stakes mission is a key step towards future Moon landings. In Nepal, Justice Sapna Pradhan Mala has assumed office of acting Chief Justice of the Supreme Court from Wednesday, becoming the second woman in the country's history to helm the country's highest judiciary institution. Mala follows Justice Sushila Karki, former Prime Minister in the interim government after the youth-led protest, who was the first woman to serve as Chief Justice of Nepal. Justice Mala, the senior-most Justice of the Supreme Court, stepped into the role after Chief Justice Prakash Man Singh Roth retired on Tuesday. As per the Nepali constitution, the senior-most Supreme Court Justice automatically assumes the position of acting Chief Justice when the post falls vacant. Her appointment comes at a time of institutional transition. The Constitutional Council is required to recommend a new Chief Justice at least 1 month before the position becomes vacant. Due to dissolution of Parliament on September 12th, due to youth-led protests, the recommendation process was delayed. Back home in India, Russian First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov is visiting New Delhi from today. During his 2-day visit, Manturov will hold high-level meetings focused on bolstering bilateral trade, economic and defence ties. He is scheduled to meet External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. On Monday, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andriy Rudenko. The two leaders discussed about further advancements of wide-ranging cooperation and also talked about regional and global developments. India and Russia also held Foreign Office consultations on Monday, where they reviewed their special and privileged strategic partnership and discussed bilateral, regional and global issues of mutual interest. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and Rudenko co-chaired the Foreign Office consultations. India has dispatched a consignment of 1,000 metric tons of rice to Burkina Faso. The initiative forms a part of India's humanitarian assistance efforts aimed at bolstering food security for vulnerable communities and internally displaced persons in the West African nation. The move also highlights India's role as a dependable development partner to countries in the global south and reinforces its ongoing commitment to humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Today is the last day of the second phase of the budget session of Parliament. In the Rajya Sabha, or the upper house of Parliament, the Andhra Pradesh Reorganisation Amendment Bill 2026 will be discussed and passed in the House. This bill has already been passed by Lok Sabha. In addition, documents related to various ministries will be tabled in the House. The Comptroller and Auditor General report will also be presented. Besides this, ministers will make statements on areas such as education, women and child development, sports and housing. On the other hand, Lok Sabha will begin with question hour and later the Central Armed Police Forces General Administration Amendment Bill 2025 will be introduced for discussion and passage. This bill has already been passed by the Lok Sabha. Manuscripts of Ramayana and Mahabharata epics in French Institute. Yes, you heard it right. The French Institute of Pondicherry has around 10,000 of them. And not only that, these manuscripts are being preserved and digitized. Puducherry was once a French colony by the name of Pondicherry. DD India correspondent Vishal Baristo brings you this exclusive report.
The French Institute of Pondicherry is doing a yeoman's service by preserving the manuscripts on palm leaves. Carefully preserved in this archive, these manuscripts are as old as 400 years. The subject varies from the mythological epics of Ramayana, Mahabharata to the Shaivism and Siddha system of medicine.
We have around 10,000 manuscripts, mostly Shaiva Gamas, but also Siddha medicine and epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Some of them are from the 17th century, but most of them are more recent.
The archive also showcases tools used to prepare these manuscripts centuries ago. This 17th century Ramayana written on palm leaves also has been preserved and digitized.
We take the precautions like applying lemongrass oil, maintaining this room for 24 degrees centigrade for 24 hours. After that, even we started digitalizing. We kept in the floppy, first microfilm didn't work, floppy didn't work, we took to CD didn't work, we took to DVD, now external hard disk, now we are going for the internet.
The original manuscripts are preserved with lemongrass oil, and to keep them for time immemorial, the Institute also digitizes them. This Frenchman has been doing it for a very long time.
It's the Shraddha Praha Yoga. It's from the 18th century, and I do it on my computer. I take pictures here that come from my computer, I crop them and I make some PDF files with it.
Even after the digitization is done, a lot of efforts are taken to prepare e-text of these manuscripts so that they can be put on the internet for everyone to read. The French Institute of Pondicherry, a renowned multidisciplinary research center established in 1955 under the joint supervision of French Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the CNRS. Located in a historical colonial building in White Town, it serves as a key hub for French scientific diplomacy and the study of Indian heritage.
In this room, there are around 10,000 manuscripts which are very old and they need special care. The noise that you are hearing are from the instruments that keep the temperature and humidity under control. With cameraman Sanjay Kumar Jaina in Puducherry, this is Vishal Baristo, DD India.
The Indian Met Department has issued widespread weather alerts for the coming week. When we talk of it, then rain with thunderstorms and strong winds are likely to occur in Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand from 3rd to 7th of April. Northeast India can expect light to moderate rains with thunderstorms and gusty winds with isolated heavy rainfall. East India will see scattered rain, thunderstorms and gusty winds through April 7th. Whereas heat alerts have also been issued with hot and humid conditions likely in Kerala, Odisha, Jharkhand and West Bengal during early April. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. With temperatures rising in Rajasthan, the traditional matka or earthen pot is experiencing a resurgence in the city of Ajmer. Residents are increasingly opting for these clay vessels to keep water naturally cool. The rise of matka is also supporting local artisans and reviving a time-honoured craft. Birders and wildlife enthusiasts are celebrating the sighting of more than 6 rare white-rumped vultures in the Corbett Tiger Reserve area. Native to South and Southeast Asia, this critically endangered species was previously sighted in the region in 2017 and 2022. Wildlife experts say the latest sighting is a positive sign for the future of this rare vulture species. The Jammu and Kashmir Police in Rajouri organized a traditional wrestling competition known as Kushti on Wednesday to promote rural sports and strengthen civil police relations. Wrestlers from across the region showcased their skills with competition held for various age groups. And in news just coming in, India's defence exports have touched an all-time high of 38,424 crore rupees in the financial year 2025-26, marking a massive rise of 62.66% over the previous fiscal year's figure of 23,622 crore rupees. In this landmark milestone, defence public sector undertakings has contributed 54.84%, while the private sector has contributed 45.16%. This accomplishment of the Indian defence industry is in line with the Prime Minister's vision to position India among the world's top defence exporters. This sharp rise highlights the increasing global acceptance of Indian-made defence products and the sector's growing integration into the international supply chains. Apart from being a successful global partner for systems, India is exporting defence equipment to more than 80 countries as of financial year 2025-26. The government's continuous endeavours towards ease of doing business and facilitation of defence exporters have paved the way for a performance-oriented and globally competitive defence industry. You're watching DD India News. I'll be heading for a short break, but after the break, IPL fans are in for a treat as Kolkata Knight Riders will clash with Sunrisers Hyderabad today. In the latest ICC rankings, Abhishek Sharma and Ishan Kishan retain the top spots in T20 internationals. World Autism Day observed today. Stay with us for a special report.
Water influences our lives in more ways than we often notice. It shapes our cities, our communities, and even the childhoods of those growing up on its edge.
That it's not an unlimited ocean available. There are limited resources in it, and we have to adapt to newer ways of fishing so that we survive and our next generation survives.
Project Special is that everyone in the village got involved. They built dams and dug ponds. They also planted trees to help the soil store the little rainwater more effectively and for longer.
Few visitors realize that this stretch of coastline is severely contaminated with toxic heavy metals. Hiking here can be harmful to your health.
If you are able to ease the financial burdens associated with schooling, you have created an enormous opportunity for the most vulnerable children.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south, bringing you stories from the heart of emerging economies, dynamic cultures and transformative voices. As the international news channel of India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati, DD India delivers high-quality content from every corner of the globe, focusing on the stories that shape our future. We don't just report news. We connect you to India's voice in the global narrative, from current affairs to culture, from economic growth to sustainable development and the ever-evolving world order. DD India gives you a comprehensive view of the world around us. Stay connected, stay informed, and embrace the stories that shape our lives. DD India. India's voice to the world.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to updates from the world of business now. Mexican Finance Ministry released a draft budget on Wednesday, projecting its economy to grow between 1.9% and 2.9% in 2027. For 2026, Mexico maintained its growth forecast at 1.8% to 2.8%. The Finance Ministry also outlined fiscal expectations, forecasting a primary deficit of 4.1% of GDP this year, narrowing to 3.5% in 2027. The ministry projected the central bank's policy interest rate would end 2026 at 6.3% and 2027 at 5.5%. Regarding energy, Mexico expects its oil export mix to average $77.3 per barrel this year, before dropping to $54.7 per barrel in 2027. Finally, the Finance Ministry anticipates the peso to end 2026 at 18.4 per US dollar, weakening marginally to 18.6 by the end of 2027. Up next, we'll get you updates from the world of sports. We'll talk of IPL first. Kolkata Knight Riders will take on Sunrisers Hyderabad at the Eden Gardens today. Kolkata will be desperate for their spinners to rediscover form in the IPL 2026 match involving two batting-heavy sides. This fixture also marks the start of a crucial home stretch for the three-time champions, who will play 3 matches in 7 days and another on April 19th before the Kolkata leg pauses for nearly a month due to the upcoming assembly polls. Hyderabad come into the fixture after going down by 4 wickets against defending champions RCB in the tournament opener. In that fixture, captain Ishan Kishan played a superb knock of 80, but other Hyderabad batters failed to make significant contribution with the bat. Swashbuckling India batters Abhishek Sharma and Ishan Kishan have retained the top 2 spots in the latest ICC T20 International Player Rankings. Abhishek leads the chart with 875 rating points, narrowly ahead of Kishan, who sits on 871. India's strong presence in the top 10 was further underlined by Tilak Verma in the 6th place and T20 international captain Suryakumar Yadav at the 7th. The biggest gains, however, came from South Africa's emerging talent Connor Esterhuizen, who surged from outside the top 100 to 39th after an impressive debut series against New Zealand. Connor amassed 200 runs across 5 matches, double the tally of other batter in the series as South Africa edged a 3-2 win. BCCI announced the senior men's schedule for a away match, that is 3-match T20 International Series against Zimbabwe in July. The Indian cricket team are scheduled to play 3 T20 internationals at Harare Sports Club in Harare. The first T20 international will be played on July 23rd. BCCI also confirmed that Zimbabwe are scheduled to travel to India for a 3-match ODI series in January next year. The 3 ODIs will be played at Kolkata, Hyderabad and Mumbai respectively. However, the dates are yet to be announced. Changing track from sports now, anxiety, sensory sensitivities and social confusion may not be obvious to others, but for some, these parameters indicate neurodevelopmental differences in a child. Autism spectrum disorder has evolved from a misunderstood, narrowly defined childhood condition to a recognized neurodevelopmental spectrum with significant lifelong implications. World Autism Day is observed every year on 2nd of April with an aim to raise global awareness, foster acceptance and support individuals with autism. We get to a special report. Autism, also referred to as autism spectrum disorder, constitutes a diverse group of conditions related to development of the brain. It affects communication, behavior and social interaction. People with autism may experience challenges such as difficulty in social communication, repetitive behaviors and sensitivity to sensory stimuli. However, autism is a spectrum, which means every individual is different and has unique strengths and challenges. The level of intellectual functioning among autistic people varies widely, extending from profound impairment to superior levels. According to WHO, around 78 million people globally had autism. The estimated prevalence of autism in India is around 1 in 68 children. Boys are more commonly affected by autism than girls, with male to female ratio of approximately 3:1. World Autism Day was established by the United Nations General Assembly in 2007. Since then, it has been observed annually to promote awareness about autism and encourage inclusion across societies. The theme this year, Autism and Humanity, Every Life Has Value, highlights and affirms the dignity and worth of all autistic people as part of our shared human future. A large number of autistic people have exceptional skills in certain areas such as memory, mathematics, music, or art. Autism is not a disease and does not have a cure, but it needs to be met with understanding, support, and acceptance. Living with autism is challenging, but with good support and understanding, people with autism can have a full life. Preeti Kaur, DD India. With that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.